Hey, Oklahoma. Hey, Texas. You want to go to the SEC early? You want to leave the Big 12 in 2023? That's no problem. Seriously, as a Big 12 guy, no problem whatsoever. But it's going to cost you $250 million. How do you like that? And that's my number. That's not Brett Yormark's number. That's my number, baby. So come on, pay up, and let's make this happen. I'm Pete Mundo, HeartlandCollegeSports.com. Of course, is how you find us covering the Big 12 Conference. Thank you for being here. Subscribe to the show. We really appreciate you guys doing that. So there have been reports this week. Dennis Dodd had a report that you look at the Big 12, you look at OU and Texas, and it's very clear right now that something's going on in the Big 12. We still do not have a Big 12 football schedule, and nobody is clear on why that is. Nobody is talking. The reports are we're going to get a Big 12 schedule by the end of the week. Okay. All right. I mean, I'd like a Big 12 schedule by, 2 weeks ago, but end of the month. Okay. That's what the talks are right now. We're doing this at the end of the week, and there still is no schedule. So I feel comfortable in saying we are still a few days away from a Big 12 football schedule coming to fruition. What is going on? At this point, there's two things going on potentially. Number one, the more likely option in the Big 12 is that everybody knows OU and Texas are going to be gone by 2024 instead of 2025. Therefore, teams are fighting over who is going to get home games against OU and Texas because they bring enormous revenue streams to these Big 12 communities when they come to town. Whether it's Texas going to Lubbock, whether it's Oklahoma going to Manhattan, whatever it might be, they bring obviously fan bases, money that's good for these schools and their economies. So that's the likely answer as to what is going on right now in the Big 12 and why the schedule is suddenly getting dragged out, because now everybody is battling to get a home game against OU or Texas because this is the last year, potentially, these two schools are going to be in the Big 12, right? Okay, that's a very feasible option. And I would tell you there's probably an 80 to 90% chance that's what's going on. But I would also say there is a 10 to 20% chance that something else is happening here. What else could be happening? It is possible that OU and Texas are trying to leverage and get their way out of this league prior to 2024. In fact, they may be trying to get to the SEC as soon as this fall. You might say, that's crazy, Pete. How's that possible? The SEC schedules come out. They can make it happen. It is feasible to pull this off and make this happen. It is. It absolutely is. If you split, and we've written about this on the website at heartlandcollegesports.com. If you split up OU and Texas, right? You split them up for 1 year in different divisions in the SEC. You can make a schedule work. We've written about this. It can be done. And OU and Texas may say, you know what? We don't want to deal with Houston. We don't want to deal with BYU, Cincinnati, UCF. We're out. We're done. We're moving on. We just don't want to be with those schools. So OU and Texas may say, we went out this year, Big 12. What's it going to cost us? And if I'm Brett Yormark, here's what my number is. My number, if I'm Brett Yormark, is $250 million. Now, you might be sitting there and thinking, $250 million, where's that money going to come from? How do you come up with that number? I mean, I like round numbers, but I just make that up. I didn't. So we know that right now, the early exit fees, if OU and Texas leave after the 2023-2024 season, they would be on the hook for early termination fees, and they would be looking at as much as $168 million. That's the number. If you're looking at it at its cap, that's the number, $168 million for OU and Texas to leave early after this season. Where am I getting another $80 million from? Here's what I'm doing. And this is how we did the math on the website. Matthew Postins and I of HeartlandCollegeSports.com talked about this. Here's what we're doing. We're taking $16 million. Now, where's the $16 million coming from? That's about what the other 8 teams are losing over the next 2 years because they've got to share their media rights package with 4 new teams. with Houston and UCF and Cincinnati and BYU. But the 4 wanted to come into the Big 12 early, and the other 8 schools are giving up money over the next 2 years to make that happen. So figure $16 million times 8 teams. That's $128 million. And because I'm such a good guy, I'm going to give OU and Texas about a 30 to 35% discount. 65% of the $128 million combined with the $168 million OU and Texas already owe brings us to about $250 million. It's a nice round number. I gave you a little bit of a discount. And go ahead, have fun, go to the SEC. Now, Texas, I believe, would drop that bag in a minute. I'm not convinced OU has that kind of money. The reports I've been hearing is that OU and Texas would love to be out as soon as they can. Texas could pay the buyout fee and not even think twice. OU, not as likely to have that money lying around. So that's where there appears to be a little bit of a discrepancy between when they leave, how quickly they can get out. But I'm looking at that number and saying, you might say, it's Pete, it's ridiculous. And I'm not sitting here telling you it's likely. But that's the number that I would put it at. And if I'm Brett Yormark, I don't want to negotiate against that guy. He's got all the leverage here. He does. OU and Texas don't really have any. You don't want to pay up? Fine. We'll take games with you for the next couple of years. We're here. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, Pete, what about ESPN? Well, okay. We'll include the ESPN angle in the conversation. But first, let me tell you about what's going on with my friends at DraftKings. They are an official, of course, NFL sports betting sponsor at DraftKings, and they are giving listeners of this show a special offer for the divisional playoff rounds this weekend of the NFL playoffs. New customers bet $5. Yes, you heard that right. $5 on your bet with DraftKings, and you get $200 in free bets. $200 in free bets when you place a $5 bet as a new customer with DraftKings Sportsbooks. All you've got to do is use our promo code, which is HCS for Heartland College Sports. That's the only thing you have to do. Use our promo code HCS with the DraftKings Sportsbook app. And even if you're an existing customer, they are boosting your winnings all weekend long on any parlay. Same game parlays, add a leg, get up to 100% bonus. Download that app right now. Use our promo code HCS. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. I can't wait. My Chiefs are playing on Saturday against the Jags. Let's go, baby. Let's go. ESPN's factor in all this now. How does ESPN figure this whole thing out? Well, ESPN obviously, is partners with the Big 12, is going to stay partners with the Big 12, but is most engaged with the SEC. We're not stupid. We all understand that. ESPN may be pressuring the Big 12 to say, hey, can you let these two guys out of here early, OU and Texas? Can you do that for us? But Fox, who has the rights to the Red River rivalry through the end of the Big 12 contract, if I'm Fox, I'm like, no, not so fast. We've got the rights to the Red River rivalry. We're not just letting you guys walk. And the Big 12 is partners with ESPN and Fox for the future. So there is zero benefit to Fox to let this thing happen early. Fox is going to be on the other side of the Big 12 saying, no, you keep OU and Texas in there. So ESPN is kind of a moot point here. ESPN does not have the leverage and power that a lot of people probably assume that they would have in a situation like this. They just don't have it. So I'm not really all that worried about ESPN and, what they may or may not think about this. They don't have a lot of leverage because Fox is on the Big 12's other shoulder saying, no, not yet. You guys are not making this move with OU and Texas. But at $250 million, that's a big number. The Big 12 could obviously reinvest that. They could look at expansion elsewhere if they need to. It's a great conversation to have. In terms of what $250 million in extra monies, yes, a lot of that would probably go to the schools to help balance things out. But you look at the Big 12 and you say, gosh, what would they do with $250 billion on top of what they got? It's a game changer for this league. And if OU and Texas are like, come on, that's ridiculous. Well, all right, then stay with us. Stay with us. Our teams will take the home games with you guys, and life will go on. Everything will continue just fine. It's not going to be a big deal. So there's a lot still to address, and there is a lot that's going to be happening with the Big 12 in this conference. And the fact that we do not have a schedule right now tells me there's some fishy stuff going on. And I don't think it's bad. I'm just saying there's a lot of moving parts. Either OU and Texas are gone in 2023, which is a long shot, but it's possible, or they're going to finalize that 2024 exit for July of next year. And there will be one awkward season in the Big 12, and all these teams are going to be fighting with Brett Yormark and the commissioner's office to get home games against OU and or Texas. That's what's going on there. Jeff asks on YouTube Live, Pete, why no K-State podcast from your expanded podcast lineup? Jeff, my man, you got to look closer, brother. We've got the Everything EMAW podcast. Joe Tillery just posted a show. We posted a brand new show. We do weekly shows on our team-oriented podcast. He posted a show 2 days ago. So you got to check it out, man. Everything EMAW podcast. So be sure to go check it out. Subscribe if you're a K-State fan. We are expanding, by the way, and then I'll get to a couple more things. We have expanded our podcast network. And I'm working to get all the teams. We've got a Kansas podcast, the Jayhawker Talker podcast. We've got the Boomer Schooner, what are we calling it? The Sooner Schooner podcast. Sorry, that one switched this week. We've got an Oklahoma State podcast, the Pokes podcast. That is starting next week. We've got a TCU-focused podcast, the Hypnotoad podcast. We've got a Texas Tech podcast. And we've got a podcast dedicated to the transfer portal, recruiting, and name, image, likeness. So just search Heartland College Sports wherever you get your podcasts, and you'll see the entire podcast lineup we've got, and we're looking to add to that as well. So just know that we are adding to that over the coming weeks and months, and we are so excited to bring you more content, more team-exclusive podcasts as part of the Heartland College Sports Podcast Network. Pac-12 schools, are they causing a delay? Are they in play for next year? I would hope so. I still think Colorado would be an awesome Big 12 addition. I can't believe how much garbage I get from other Big 12 fans about this. The past is in the past. And if this Deion Sanders thing works, I don't know if it will. Seriously, I don't know if it's going to work. Deion Sanders at Colorado is either going to be an enormous success or an incredible failure. And I don't know which one it is just yet. But it's going to be wildly entertaining. And while the Big 12 is not going to be the SEC, the Big 12 is not going to be the Big 10. It will be the clear number 3 conference in America. And I think it will be the most entertaining conference in America. And that's going to be worth something in this conference going forward. The Big 12, I am not projecting or predicting. I'm not gonna BS you here. It's not going to be the best. It won't be the SEC. It won't be the Big 10 because of the money. But it could very well be the most, and I believe will be, the most entertaining conference in America. And if you add prime time, you bring in Colorado, it will be good for Colorado football, get the recruiting pipeline back into Texas. It'll be a very, very entertaining conference and great product. There's no doubt in my mind about that. So I'm excited for that. I don't know what the future holds for the Pac-12. I think the Pac-12 is a dead conference walking. I don't see any way this conference has any kind of future, but, we'll see. There's a ton of moving parts, and I am getting very skeptical about this delay from the Big 12, because if you're the Big 12 on the schedule, you just had a team in a national championship. Take advantage of that. Let's go. Let's get this thing going. Let's keep that momentum full steam ahead. And now we're all sitting here twiddling our thumbs with crickets chirping in the background. So a lot happening. Thank you guys for being here. Subscribe on YouTube. We're keeping this content churning and burning. And please do check out our podcast network for our team exclusive podcasts, or there are conversations that I post on the podcast that don't get on YouTube. So just search Heartland College Sports wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe on YouTube. Share the show with the friends and family. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.